All right, folks, I'm just getting connected here. I need one more sec. Sorry, I'm a little behind. I'm just got to press go on a bunch of different spots at the same time, which is only a little bit hectic. So, where is not working? There's a lot of places not working. Okay. That includes Instagram. I'm almost there. If folks are joining, I can see the chat counters going up. If you want to come say hi, let me know that the chat's working, because this is always a fun game to play. I would appreciate that a ton, and then I don't have to guess at all the different places to go looking for reading messages, because it should be in one spot, but that's not always the case. But I just have to get Instagram up and running. This Restream platform's really been letting me down with some of their integrations. Okay, and I think Instagram should work in just a second, so. You found me on Ask Jeeves. Is that serious? How did you find me? How did you find me on Ask Jeeves? I haven't heard of Ask Jeeves in like I don't even know how many years. That's incredible. I can't tell if you're joking, by the way. So if you're being very sarcastic, I'm not. I'm clearly not getting it. That's cool though. One more sec. I just want to make sure LinkedIn is working, because that's the one I trust the least on here, to be honest. It says it's working. Okay. No, just kidding. Okay. And then Infected FPS, welcome back. It's been a while. Finally, Twitch sent live notification on time this week. Okay. You weren't already planning to be here? Come on, man. Well, welcome. For folks that are new to these live streams, usually what I do is I go through my newsletter article, and I use that as the basis for what I'm going to be talking about. And if you're on Substack down here, then you already know where the newsletter and stuff is. But I usually write a newsletter, send it out on Saturday. That becomes the topic for this live stream. But the live streams are always AMAs. So if you just want to ask anything about software engineering, career development, stuff like that, then like, please, like, just ask in the chat. That's the entire goal. I see some more familiar faces. Justin Bentley, welcome. Hernan started coding in VB6 and SQL Server 22 years ago. Awesome. VB6 was my first language, and literally in 1 month, it will also be 22 years for me that I started coding. So, and it was in VB6 to start with, so that's super cool. I don't usually tell people that I started in VB6. We don't speak about Visual Basic, but no, that's awesome to hear. Thanks for being here. Infected FPS. Look, I spent 2 weeks breaking prod. I was preoccupied. Excellent. Well, you lived to tell the tale, so I'm glad to see you back. But yeah, the format of these is always an AMA. This time it's been a little bit unique. So when I went to go write my newsletter at the end of last week, if folks haven't been tuning into Code Commute or like been on the live streams and stuff, I've been sharing that, like, I've been pretty burnt out from work. And so it was the end of the week, and I was like, I have to write a newsletter article. I really don't like being in a position where I skip it. I think I've only missed a couple, like, since I started. One of them was when I got married, because I flew back to Canada for that. So, like, I'm not going to be writing newsletter articles and not focusing on the wedding. So that was one time. And I think the other time was when I was in Hawaii or on vacation or something. So then I didn't end up writing a newsletter. I think there's been another situation where I, like, literally planned the newsletters ahead of time and made it happen. And I think the last time I was in Hawaii, I actually wrote a newsletter, like, while my wife was in bed or something, and I was like, I'm gonna write the newsletter. But this was one of the first times where I was like, I don't know if I have it in me, which is a hard thing to admit, because I enjoy doing this stuff. I enjoy, like, making the YouTube videos, posting on social media. I love doing the live streams. It's really cool to be able to connect with people and chat through this stuff. Um, so that was like a moment for me where I was like, I don't feel good about that. Especially because it is something I enjoy. And it was like, I just don't have energy for it. Like it's almost like I just need to go to sleep. And so then I was like, okay, well, the other really crappy thing about that is that I can't do the live stream if I don't have the topic. By the way, my computer is saying that I don't have connection. So if if I happen to disappear, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. I saw I saw that my TikTok stream dropped, and also my phone, which is on Wi-Fi here for Substack, dropped. So hopefully I'm still here. I apologize if it's blipping. Twitch is still good. Awesome, thank you. Anyway, the thing that's kind of interesting here is I'm like, okay, well, you know what? If I can't do my newsletter article, I'm not gonna not do the live stream. Like I gotta do it. So I put the thumbnail and stuff together for the live stream, and I just said I don't have a topic. It's just gonna be like a free for all. So spoiler alert, I'm really leaning on folks to chime in the chat to go over topics and questions and stuff today. And to be honest, that's the case most of the time, right? Like I want you guys to be able to ask questions, and I can spend time on that. But so I got all that together, and then I was like, you know what? I think I do have a topic that I want to go through. So we're going to chat through it. And it's a bit about burnout and a little bit about realization of something. And I figured it'd be fun to talk through. It's probably pretty quick, though. Usually I like to have about an hour on these streams, especially during this point in time. I might go back to 2-hour streams later. I might go back to doing coding live streams in a little bit, but I don't have capacity for that right now. So we're going to talk through this newsletter article. I'm going to put the link in the chat. If you're on Substack, you know where the newsletter is already. Oh, interesting. Sorry, I'm realizing that I was talking about Restream. It's the platform I use for streaming to different platforms. This is ridiculous. So it needed me to re-authenticate with Kick. There's like a new integration, and I don't even know if it's working right now, to be honest. I don't know who uses Kick. But it said that it re-authenticated. Now it's telling me that it didn't. And I'm noticing the reason I was surprised is I can see that it has a different icon for the chat when I sent the message. So neat. But anyway, link is in the chat there for folks. If you're on LinkedIn, it doesn't come there. So let me put it into the chat. Newsletter is here. And it's I put where the newsletter itself is, but the actual issue is going to be the first one you see there. Infected FPS says, burnout sucks. Realized I was burnt out from my previous job about a year into my current one. Yeah, I've heard this kind of thing from people before where LinkedIn says, failed to post the comment. Does anything work? Can something please work? But I have heard this kind of thing from people where they start a new role, and I've actually heard this from direct reports before, where they're starting a new role and they're like trying to navigate, like it's almost like they don't realize they're burnt out, and then they're like, oh wait, like something's up here, and then they kind of clue into, because I think their environment changes and they start to realize there's some differences going on, and they're like, oh, like maybe that's what it was. So sorry to hear that, Infected FPS. I'll give a little bit of context here. So especially for folks that watch Code Commute, which is my second YouTube channel where I basically do vlogs. And so some days I'll record like up to 4 vlogs. If I'm going to CrossFit and I'm going to and from work, I'll get more in. But because it's like unedited, it's just literally me getting into the car, or sometimes I'll sit here and I'll record them. It's a lot more raw, right? Like I just kind of talk about what's going on and then answer questions. And people who've been watching Code Commute have probably picked up for a little while that like I've just been kind of going through it. But I wanted to like clarify a little bit, and especially before I dive into some of this topic from the newsletter. I'm just realizing now it's like one of my out of the most recent newsletters, the end is in sight for the thing that's getting me burnt out. If that makes sense. So sometimes when people go through burnout, it kind of creeps up on them. And then they're like, okay, well, now I'm burnt out. And like they're realizing it and they're like, well, what now? Like I'm screwed, right? I'm kind of, I'm in this bad spot that I don't want to be in. And like I wasn't paying attention. Now it's too late. And like everything's just awful. And now you have to play this game of like, number one, how do I stay afloat? Because you don't just want to be totally consumed by it. But number two, like, how do I, like, what's the path out of this? Because if you haven't been paying attention to how you got into it, because it's like crept up on you slowly, trying to find a way out can be difficult. So I've been, I'm no like stranger to burnout. And as I've been going through it and getting to this point, I've just been reminding myself, or when I talk about it, I say it out loud, like there is an end date for when my burnout ends, because I know what's causing it right now. And I have a large project at work and I'm not complaining about it. It's a really important project. I am very, happy / proud that I got to be nominated to kind of lead this. So that's all goodness, but it's demanding. And like, it's not, for me, it's not like work that I love. And by that, I mean, it's just so demanding in areas that sometimes I don't love spend time doing. So the side effect of that is that it's like, it's draining. I love the impact that it's having. I love the results we're getting, but the sort of the intermediate work to make that happen, the responsibilities on my part, I don't love that. So it's very, very draining. So I know what's causing the burnout. I know that there's a due date. It'll be done. And it's going to be successful. I'm confident of it. So that's all goodness. So I need to keep reminding myself, hey, this is a phase. This will get wrapped up. And then we can go back to like, working towards normalcy. I'm just going to refresh my chat because when my internet blipped there, I'm not sure that it's totally working. So we'll see. And what's this saying? Twitter broadcast is not running. Is it not going to Twitter? No, I think it is. I think this platform is just all over the place. And Twitch crapped itself for a moment. Okay. Yeah, I think my roast me, bro. No, Tay-Man, we said we're not doing this. So with that said, one of the, so I just kind of walked you through this fact that I've been working on this project and it's got me pretty drained. The topic of my newsletter this time was that while I've been completely burnt out from my current project, I had another sort of surprise project pop up. And sorry, I realized there's another chat message on TikTok. I see you. I don't know when this message came in though. Sorry. Okay, let me finish this thought. And I will answer this question. So, can I type on this chat? So the this surprise project came up. Is my internet gone again? Okay, it says it's back. I don't know what's going on. It's raining a lot here. I mean, that's all it does in Seattle, but sometimes I find like when there's a little bit too much rain, there's no internet. Go figure. But I had this surprise project come up, and the really sort of fascinating part to me about this is like this surprise project is also extremely demanding. And I've just told you, like I'm sort of at the peak of my burnout. And then I have this surprise project come up that's extremely demanding. And so that has meant that somehow over the past few weeks, I've had to find energy, for lack of better word. I've had to find energy to be able to do this big project that I've been put on and this new surprise one. And like, how, right? I'm already I'm way over capacity. I was telling some people, like, there are some days like I wake up and it's like I'm like, I don't even know how to get out of bed. Like I just don't have energy. I can't get out of bed. Um, and then this project, this extra project comes up, and now I gotta get out of bed early to work on the project. I'm working late. There were some nights on the weekend for work I was up, past midnight, like on Friday and Saturday, um, doing this throughout the last few weeks, and and then I like had this realization over the past week in particular. There's like I don't know a better way to say this, but there was like this kind of like boost of energy where I was like, hey, like this is really exciting, which is like a bizarre thing to say, right? It's like here's this Nick guy talking about how annoying this project is, how burnt out he is. He gets this other project. How is this possible? And now he's saying it was kind of exciting. Like how does that make sense? And Justin's saying water gets into the telco pits, at least back in the day. Oh, yeah, maybe probably my router is underwater right now in my living room or something too. Uh, I don't know. It's Comcast, and I don't trust anything Comcast does. It's all garbage. But I experienced this thing where this project became exciting, and nothing changed about how much I was work. It's not like all of a sudden it was just like no effort and like walk away from it. No, like at the peak of how demanding this second project was, it was exciting. And I was trying to figure out, and I think it like dawned upon me like Friday night when I was putting this newsletter together. It's like, why? Why all of a sudden did this start to seem exciting? And so the topic of the newsletter was essentially that I started to realize that this was like a familiar thing that's happened to me before. And it's also the same reason, I mean, not entirely, but a similar reason why when I was working at a startup, I was able to invest so much of my time into working. Yeah, and sorry, this person on TikTok, I'm just finishing up a thought and then I will answer your question because it's a tangent and I just want to complete the thought process. And so what happened when I was working at a startup was that I was just basically working all the time, but I enjoyed it. And there's a common thing here. So in this project that I've been working on for work, I started to realize that I was surrounded by other people working on this project with me that were also completely entrenched in it, were completely motivated to do good work. This was seemed like an insurmountable challenge kind of thing. But everyone was just fully invested in making it happen. And it's not like a super common thing, unfortunately. Hey, Big Roy 11, good to see you. It's not a super common thing, which I wish it was, but it was truly just like, everyone that's focused on this is like hell bent on getting it done, getting it working. They're also waking up early, going to bed late. Like everyone is just like in it. And then I realized when I was working at a startup, I was also surrounded by, okay, let's, sorry, Big Roy, time to go. Get out of here, man. Oh, being a content creator sucks. Where was I before whatever that was just came up? Ah. being surrounded by other people that were, you know, totally focused on just trying to get shit done and being passionate about the work they're trying to do, that's like, that's what actually kept me going at a startup. Right? Interesting challenges. I had autonomy. Um, was compensated well. All these things, but what what really made the work feel like it wasn't work. It's not you just get more money and all of a sudden it doesn't feel like work. At some point you're like, man, like it doesn't matter how much money there is, like it really feels like work. But I think that what really made it stand out for me was that when you're surrounded by other people that are like, I don't even know the right way to phrase it, right? But other people that have the same mindset, they're passionate about what problems they're trying to solve, regardless of how like sort of insurmountable they seem, iterating fast, crazy ideas, just being embedded in that, I think was the biggest thing for me. And I started to realize what's going on with I just any we got to stop with the we got to stop with that in the chat. I just if I see it, I'm blocking it because it's going to different platforms. God. Whoa. I'm just gonna disconnect kick, I think. So all of that to say that I realized that I got to experience that on the second project that I'm working on, and sort of at the peak of burnout was a really interesting kind of thing for me to experience. Like, how did I not just like kind of give up on everything? And it's because on this other project, I just felt like I had, I was surrounded by people that were like, we're getting shit done. And that was my burst of energy. And that really is what kept me going over the last little bit. So I wanted to share that. So if you look at the newsletter, it's keeping it together. It's that's what's keeping it together for me, is just being surrounded by other people that are passionate about getting the work done. So, okay. Jonathan Barron, thank you so much. I'm going to answer one question on TikTok before I go back to yours. And I do think I have an answer for you, so hold tight. Oh my God. Okay, I'm just disconnecting this. Sorry. This is so embarrassing. I don't understand how people make this like. I'm pissed off, man. Like it's a long day. Just like give me a break. Okay. Okay, so questions on TikTok. So let me go to them first. The first one is any tips to stay independent of AI? I would maybe caution against that. I don't think I would recommend personally, I don't think I would recommend staying independent of AI, but maybe it's just how the question's asked. When you say independent, maybe the question is like how to, it's going to sound funny, just like English words, but how to not be overly dependent on AI. I think we could talk about that, but to stay independent of it to me suggests that you're trying to avoid it altogether. And that's not what I would suggest. I wouldn't suggest avoiding AI because I don't think it's going anywhere. And in fact, I think it's only just going to be more and more and more. So avoiding it, not a strategy I would recommend. But I think that not being over reliant on it is a different story altogether. And my suggestion around not being overly reliant on it is understanding like what you're using it for. So, what's a good way to say this? I talked about this on Code Commute a couple weeks back. Someone was saying they were kind of talking about this this idea of being overly dependent and how they're trying to basically take a break from AI. They're actively trying to have days where they don't use any AI, and I'm like, I don't know if I buy into that for me personally, because there's tools that I have an over reliance on. I have an over reliance on a compiler. Um, what's going on here, man? Sorry, some of you can't see the chat. Someone's trying to sabotage my live stream, which is, I don't know. Sounds like some moron trolling it. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm trying to use the tools to block them. Yeah, I might, like, I don't know. I want to keep the chat because I need to be able to read it, but yeah. I mean, it's already been recorded, right? That's the thing. I disconnected Kick, so they came on YouTube. Okay, so to finish the rest of that thought, though, sorry, it's super distracting and like it doesn't help anyone. So I don't know why someone's doing that. It's like it's very funny for 7-year-olds. But yeah, like I do have a reliance on tools, right? Like I have a reliance on my IDE. I'm not going to be writing code not in an IDE. It's like I'm not going to be doing math without a calculator. If I can use a calculator, I'm going to use the tools I have. I need a compiler. I need an IDE. If AI becomes fully integrated in all the tooling I'm using, I probably end up having a reliance on it. But I think it's about what you're using the tool for and understanding that more specifically. So if you're using a tool and you're finding that it's not actually helping you, like one of the concerns that I responded to on I think I did a video on this on my main YouTube channel as well. If you go to my main YouTube channel, Dev Leader, one of the more recent videos, there's like an AI picture of like half my face or something like that. In that video, the idea was like, if you're finding that you're using AI and then it's messing with your critical thinking and understanding of things, I would just say like try to use the tool in a different way, right? It's just a tool. If it's not actually helping you, you need to use it in a different way. So some people were saying like, hey, for junior engineers, like they're not learning things. They're just asking AI questions and copying code and they don't understand it. And I would say like, yeah, that could happen. But instead, like, why not ask? You have the tool in front of you. Ask it about the code. Ask it to give you variations. Ask it to explain things in different ways. Like, why not do that, right? So we have these tools. It's just about using them effectively. And like I said, if you find that it's interfering with your ability to be successful, change it up. So, and then, and I can't pronounce your username on TikTok though, but you're saying, yeah, exactly. I'm a junior software engineer. I feel like AI is affecting me, especially learning. If you want, like, I would recommend, that's a third platform this person's gone to. If you want, go to my main YouTube channel, which is Dev Leader. And like I said, if you check out that video, it's right near, it's one of my most recent videos. I recommend watching that because I talk about this exact topic, especially from the perspective of junior engineers. So I hope that helps. I see there's another question on TikTok, but I want to go back to Jonathan Barron's question. And thanks again for the tip. I do appreciate that a lot. It says, what's a good number of monthly LinkedIn post comments? And then Jonathan says, I refer to good number of posts to make a number of people to comment on their posts. Number of people to comment on their posts. Okay, so this is, it's an interesting question. This depends on everyone, right? There's a huge creator on LinkedIn. His name is Jasmine Alec. So I can share some thoughts on this because not only just as like a software engineer, but like because I'm a content creator, I'll give you some different perspective. Maybe some people don't care about this, but it's interesting, especially if you're trying to network and build an audience and all that. Good number of monthly LinkedIn posts. This person, Jasmine Alec, was saying for people starting out, working up to a post a day is great. But then he actually says, once you are in the rhythm of that, do no more than 3 to 4 a week. No more than 3 to 4 a week. And then he says all of your efforts into commenting. I disagree with this a little bit. And then you might say, well, Nick, you're stupid because this person has 300,000 LinkedIn followers. We should listen to him. The part that I disagree with is like limiting the number of posts you make, because I would only limit them if you're finding that you cannot do more. It doesn't mean post. I would say it's overkill to be posting like every hour or something like that. But if it's not overkill for you to post, and I use tools, like I build tools to allow me to be consistent. If you can post every day and it's no effort for you, why wouldn't you do that? The part that is effort is the commenting. But Jonathan, I think your comment or your question is a little bit different. It says the number of people to comment on their posts. I don't know the answer to that. There's algorithm changes that have affected number of impressions, which are reduced, but they're driving up interactions. So you'll get more reactions and more comments, but lower impressions, which is kind of weird. But if the question is about how many comments to make on other people's posts, by the way, that is a bigger driving force than anything else on LinkedIn for getting people to be engaged on your stuff. So it's not the number of posts you make. It's literally how much you're commenting. And this is why Jasmine Alec, who I referred to, said comment more. He says 3 to 4 posts a week. If you read what he says about commenting, he comments 200 to 300 times a day. It's not your posts, it's your comments, because you get more reach that way, and then you get more impressions on your stuff. So hopefully that helps. But if you're trying to set a goal, I would just say more than next time, right? In terms of getting comments and stuff. Let's go back to TikTok. Thanks for being patient. What are your thoughts on of AI replacing software engineers? Mysterio Tech, I don't know if you're still on here. I'm going to reply in the chat as well so you can see it. I have videos of this on my YouTube channel, Code Commute. But that's what I would recommend so I don't have to try to regurgitate all of it. But do I think that AI is going to replace software engineers? Can't tell if I'm still here. But yeah, I don't think AI is replacing us anytime soon. I think that stuff has been taken out of context from people like Mark Zuckerberg and some other people. I think that the people that are making claims about AI replacing software engineers, they're like, number one, highly motivated based on the position they're in to sell that story. And or number two, they're literally not software engineers and they're just kind of speaking out of their ass on it. Software engineering is significantly more than just producing code. Significantly more. So if we're talking about AI being able to produce code, yes, it can. Yes, it will be creating more code for us. That part's not changing. I mean, sorry, that part's not going away. It will be more and more. People take this idea like, oh, more and more of our code bases will be generated by AI, and then they go, therefore, we must be getting replaced by AI. That's not what that means. Like, you can take a simple example of like, I know it's not the exact same thing, but how much of our code bases are generated by autocomplete code? Statistically, how much of our code bases are, if you're a .NET developer, you might know about this, and this can be applicable for other languages as well. There's things called source generators. So you can write something in code and it will actually go create more code for you, right? You can do this in .NET with regular expressions now. So the regular expression engine can actually create all of the C# code for you that executes the regular expression. Super cool. Like how much proportionally more and more of our code bases will be AI generated, because more and more of our code bases proportionally have been generated through some other means. But I think people get this confused and then they hear stuff in the media. And so, no, I don't think we're getting replaced. I think that it's going to be a bigger part of our jobs. I think it's going to change how our jobs look for sure, because it already is, but I don't think it's going to replace us, because by the time it does, most jobs will be replaced by it anyway. So I'm not sitting here being fearful. To give you context, I'm an engineering manager, so if all of the engineers were replaced by AI, what job do I have? Right? I'm not concerned about that. Because the other thing that I envision is I imagine my manager or my skip level manager coming to me and saying, by the way, we have to lay off half your team or your team because we're replacing it with AI. And I would be like, haha, like, no, it's not, it's simply not happening. You would not be able to do that in practice. It makes no sense. That's my perspective on it. For what it's worth, I'm you'll get it. Nice. Okay, sorry, I'm scrolling back up in the chat. Distinguish between learning sessions and productivity sessions. Yeah, sorry, I'm going back to the AI comments from Luke Skinner. I think that's a really interesting point on how to use AI tools more effectively. Distinguish between learning sessions and productivity sessions. Then he goes on to say, I want to learn to make a parser. Don't use AI to write the code, right? Because you could ask AI, give me a parser that does whatever. Spits it out and you go, great, I have a parser. What did you learn? Probably not a lot, right? Then I think the other thing he says, versus I need a parser for my app and don't have time, so you use AI to create that for you. So I totally agree with that. You could separate your sessions, but the idea that Luke Skinner's calling out here is that how you use the AI, how you use the tool gives you different results. If you wanted to learn how to make a parser, you could ask it to give you the code. And if you have some self-control and not just copy and paste it and run away, you could say, hey, explain what this part of the code does. Explain how to optimize this. Explain where there's performance issues. Explain, like, ask it questions, right? Depending on your style of learning, you have this incredibly powerful tool at your fingertips. Ask it more questions. Most of us just stop once we get the answer and we go, thanks. And by the way, build the next part for me. You're probably not learning a whole lot that way. Then, sorry, Brandon C. agree on more comments. Quantity doesn't equal quality. Yeah, sorry. Back to the LinkedIn stuff, right? Quantity does not also equal quality for comments. When you're commenting on stuff saying, great insight, you'll see all these automated AI comments, zero value. Not only zero value, but like LinkedIn will eventually just crack down on this stuff and hopefully ban people for doing that. It's completely pointless. It's such a waste of space and time. I don't know why people are doing this. They probably do it because they are seeing some type of benefit, but like, man, if you're trying to have a meaningful connection with someone and you're saying, great insight, good post, like, it's probably not going very far. So I don't know. Seems kind of silly, but Brandon C, thank you. I think that makes a lot of sense. Hernan says, do you think Blazor is production ready and should, as a .NET developer, embrace it in order to avoid learning JavaScript SPA framework? I think it depends. Is it production ready? Absolutely. People are having tons of success building production ready apps in Blazor. The thing to challenge here, and like, as someone who is a .NET developer and is not someone who loves building in JavaScript or TypeScript and using those kinds of libraries and frameworks, I just don't. I think there's still something to be said about using them. If you're building stuff in teams, you may have better luck with getting people on the team that are more experienced using JavaScript and TypeScript and using these types of front-end frameworks that go along with them. Right? Like, if you were to ask on the internet, how many people are familiar with React versus Blazor? You can probably guess what people are going to say. But for me, so I'm building something called Brand Ghost. This is what I use for publishing all of my social media content across platforms. When I first started making the front end for it, I literally said, Blazor, like, I'm going to build it in Blazor, no questions asked. And then when I had a couple of people partner up with me, they also know how to program in C#, but they said, we can probably iterate faster in React. So I said, okay, if you want to use React, that's totally fine. But like, it's based on the idea that they're going to be able to iterate faster. That also means that like I can use React, I can use TypeScript, can do it. I'm not super effective compared to C Sharp, but I can get by. So if they're going to be doing most of that, it made a lot of sense for us to switch over. But I think Blazor's production ready. I know people get nervous about Microsoft tech and they're like, oh, it's going to go away. Jason says .NET MVC for life, no React, Angular, Vue, Blazor, necesito. Yeah, I mean, I like Blazor personally. It's got a bit of a learning curve, I think, but if you're familiar with C Sharp, it just made a lot of sense for me. So 2024, that's a lot of 20s in there. Do you not have any worries about the quality at scale? You don't have any worries about the quality at scale of the outputs of the LLMs. I'm not fully convinced in throw more parameters and more data will lead to a linear scale of improvement. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I'm not on the actual technology for LLMs. I'm not in a position where I can even comment on that, to be honest. Do I think? Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know where to start on that question, right? I feel like I would be totally guessing if I were to try and give an answer here. My speculation, and this is totally speculative, is that the folks, the actual people that are AI engineers building the systems for all of this stuff, building the models, the data scientists, all the people involved in that, they know that the goal at some point needs to be accuracy, right? If it's just able to spit out garbage, like, and spit out garbage faster, like, it's not going to be useful. So part of me is sitting here like, I kind of need to trust that the people that are working on this stuff are keeping that in mind. It's got to be faster, but it's got to be accurate. The costs have to come down on training, all this stuff. But like, I am personally, totally acknowledge I'm personally not spending my time doing that kind of thing. So I don't really have good insights into that. So I think it's interesting, but I don't know the answer. Infected FPS, in my opinion, it helps to be aware of the various front-end frameworks and not silo yourself or your company into one. Yeah, like my team is mostly Angular, but I'm aware of React, Vue, Blazor as alternatives. I think this is a great point. Think about T-shaped developers, right? I am a .NET developer. I love C Sharp. It will be my go-to. If I need to do something effectively, it's going to be in C Sharp, to the point where even if there's technologies that are probably better suited, I would be like, is there a way I can do this in C Sharp? Because if I can, I will be more effective personally. But if you're building stuff in teams, which, by the way, in our careers, this is what we do. In your hobby projects, maybe not, but in your careers, we build stuff in teams. So being able to spend time learning about these other things, being familiar, doesn't mean you have to be an expert, right? That's why I was saying, for me, I can work in React. I can leverage TypeScript and JavaScript. I don't love it, but I can do it. If you said, I need you to go build and scale this app and do all this stuff, could I do it? Yeah. Is it going to take me more time? Absolutely. But having some familiarity is certainly helpful. So I think it's a great point from Infected FPS. 4.8.1 for .NET. Holy jeez. Folks, come on. We got way later versions of .NET. What are we doing? All the performance improvements. Guys, come on. Yeah, .NET's pretty awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of looking to the chat for more questions, so get your questions in, folks. We got some good ones. I want to see. I got them on TikTok. Oh, I've been ignoring Instagram. There's no questions on Instagram, so I probably disconnected like 14 times already. So, framework, no, get out of framework. Come on, there are better ways. Okay. I'll start wrapping up because usually some more questions keep rolling in. So for folks that wanted to see the newsletter, this is what it was. Source save, yeah. We'd upgrade to 8, but marketing keeps having requests. Yeah, this is classic, right? It's like, please let us, no, we got one more feature, right? let me switch over to this other view. You can see, boop. So this is the newsletter. It's an email newsletter, but you don't have to subscribe to it. If you've enjoyed this live stream, sorry that this one had, I apologize for the chat, just like, I don't know. There's got to be something I can do on Restream to filter things out automatically. So I apologize for all of that. I can do better. I wish I was in a position where I could have a chat moderator. It's like paid to be here. That's no time soon. So I do apologize. But if you enjoy the live streams, usually, like I said at the beginning of this, depending on when you joined, I base them on my newsletter issue. It goes out on Saturdays. You don't have to subscribe to get the email. If you just want to go to weekly.devleader.ca, then you can check it out and see what the topic's going to be. For folks on Substack, you already know where it's at. So if you need a mod for that, I'm down. No cursing. Come on, we're just talking about this, man. That's on the internet for forever. No, I think I've already said shit and ass maybe on this stream, so I don't know what's considered cursing anymore. I know those aren't good words, but I don't think that you like get demonetized and stuff like that. I think the F word probably, so we're not saying that. There's probably a couple other words we don't use. iPhone 16 giveaway link in bio. Get out of my chat, man. There's more. We gotta. Sorry, there's just like more stuff on TikTok that's spam. You learned from me. I said it. Okay, come on. Now you're ganging up. Yeah, maybe at some point. It's just like I have to see, but it's all this stuff is like it's weird. Even when it's helpful, sometimes it's like overhead, and I don't mean that in a personal way. It's just like it's one more thing to coordinate. I'll give you an example. I was driving home from work and I'm like, I have to get home by 7 because apparently I learned with Restream for LinkedIn, if I don't start streaming to LinkedIn before the event, it just doesn't work. In fact, it will stream to the last event that I had, which is the weirdest behavior ever. But that's what happens if I don't start the stream on time. And so I'm like getting in the car, like going to drive home. I'm filming a Code Commute episode. And it's like, you're going to get home at 6:57. And I'm like, it's not good. So it's just like, the stress of trying to coordinate stuff. Hernan says, as a developer, do you ever have to deal with analysis paralysis? If so, can you share experience? Absolutely. I think it's a really good question. Bias for action is my recommendation. So I often will say the phrase, don't paint yourself into a corner. Or, hey, look, if we're not going to paint ourselves into a corner and we have 5 good options, pick one. We like bias for action. We have to get something done because analysis paralysis is real. Can be in a situation where it's like, hey, if you're in a situation where there's like a handful of all the options are good and there's no tiebreaker, or all the options are bad and you have to pick something, we can get stuck in this situation where we just keep analyzing, keep trying to get more data. We have to make the perfect decision. But the reality is that if you're working somewhere that's a business, which is, spoiler alert, if you're working for an employer and they're paying you, that's probably a business. You need to, as a business, you need to be shipping value to customers because the customers will then pay you, and that's how you get paid. This is the point of a business existing. So if you're in a situation where you're being consumed by just trying to analyze things until no end, and that's holding you back from making progress, there's a point, and it's going to be different in all cases, but there's a point where you're starting to just waste time coming up with what seemingly might be the perfect answer. And there is no perfect answer. So if you're able to start making progress, right, you've tried your best to try and get the one that stands out as the best or stands out as the least bad. You have to have a bias for action. Now, that's going to mean that as a team, acknowledging like, hey, we had to pick something and start moving forward. We acknowledge that as a team, this isn't putting us into a situation where we're going to be painted into a corner. If you don't understand the analogy, literally picture yourself painting a room. Okay, you're painting your floor. I don't know. It's kind of weird now that I'm saying it out loud. And you're painting this room, and you keep going across the floor until you're stuck in the corner. The last spot to paint is where? Under your feet, right? And now you're stuck in the corner. Thanks for being here, Entropy. Watching my Dome Train tutorials. Thank you. Cool. I don't know how many people watch the Dome Train courses and they're like, I wonder if this guy makes YouTube videos. I do. Here I am. So thank you for being here. But yeah, I think Hernan, my point on analysis paralysis is like at some point you have to have a bias for action. And if you're able to, because things change in software, right? If you've built systems before that have stood the test of time, I would wager that however someone started designing something in the first place is not going to be the exact way that it remains in a year, 2, 3, 5 years. It's just, if it's standing the test of time, it's because it's evolving. So I think if you're not painting yourself into a corner, pick an option, move forward. But situationally, you have to decide how much time to invest. Justin says, I got into tech really because of Command and Conquer and StarCraft. Wonder if anyone else did. That's super cool. Really? Like was it just because of playing the games, or was it because like the gameplay, or because of the sort of like the fantasy that the game offers, right? Like, because Command and Conquer, I can remember playing Command and Conquer, and like, again, was it because you're building up bases and like there's cool technology? Like I remember putting Tesla coils down and flamethrower towers, or was it like you were modding the game? Or I'm very curious. It's really interesting, Justin. Infected FPS says old school Halo Xbox modding was my catalyst. Nice. For me, in the very beginning, it was just like, I don't even remember the games, but like super old games. And it was just like changing config files to be able to like hack, not really hack, like changing the game settings, and then you could make the game easier kind of thing. So that got me interested in like tweaking and tuning things. And then it was modding and stuff like that. But I learned to program probably, I think it like when I was 14, like officially with like a programming class in high school. And for me, like once I saw like that I could build things and they were like the most simple things, the first thing I did was like, I'm going to build a text-based role-playing game. Like I need to build a game right now. So games for me were, yeah, definitely a way to get into it. 24. There's too many 20s in your name. I have another one. At what point should you remove parts of your resume that are less specific to your role and instead just show high programming ability? For example, recently graduated college and started a new grad role. At about what point should I take the more academic projects off the resume and replace some experience close to my role? You're going to get different perspectives on this. Yeah, there is a delay in YouTube comments. Sorry. I don't know. Streaming platform. It's like this normally, by the way. And by the way, I'm going back and reading up other questions too, so that doesn't help at all. So some of these are already like close to 10 minutes old, I'm sure. But you'll get different perspectives on resumes. I think that some people will say 1 page max. Like I'm a 2-page resume kind of person. If it went to 3 pages, I'm not going to be like, you're fired or you're not hired. If it was 1 page, I'm not like, not enough. I find like 2 pages is a sweet spot personally. And so I use that as a metric. So if you are interested, if you haven't seen 2024, you're on YouTube. I'm assuming you can see my YouTube channel. If you haven't already watched, there's a resume review playlist So if you really want my take on resumes and how to operate them, you can check out that playlist. If you want to submit a resume, if you watch the first minute of any one of those videos, it explains how. It's totally free. Ironically, I pay money to an editor to edit the resume video that I spend time on. So, and then hopefully you get the benefit of it, but it's just my opinion. I would say if you have about 2 pages and then you're like, hey, I have more valuable skills for the role that I'm trying to apply for, or more valuable experiences that showcase what I'm trying to go for, then start pulling off the more academic stuff. If you have a page to 2 pages and you're more junior, I would just keep the academic stuff on there. I think it's just extra experiences to call out, and that can be helpful. I've given feedback before about people saying like, here's my course list, and they just have like the course codes. I'm like, those don't mean anything. CS 2027. Or sorry, 227, not there's too many digits there. CS 227 and like math 411, and it's like, what is that? I don't know what that is. Well, no, it's online. You can check out. I'm not clicking anywhere else outside of your resume if I'm not already sold on your resume. I'm not doing more work on top of that. I got 700 other resumes and applications to go through. So if you want to showcase even the courses and stuff, what's the course name? Adaptive algorithms. Cool. Math, whatever I said, that's actually like linear algebra. Like, cool. Like, tell me what it is. The more that I have to guess at what it means, the less likely it's going to offer any value. But in terms of like even school projects and stuff like that, I would say keep them in there if you have about 2 pages of experience, and then start pulling stuff off. If it's completely irrelevant, if you're like, I made a, what did we do? Like, I'm trying to think of some of this stuff. I don't know, like made a VHDL thing for controlling a circuit, and you're like, I guess the other litmus test that I'm trying to call out here is if you're like, I couldn't do that again, nor would I want to, like, don't include it. Because you don't want that to be someone's going to be like, oh, they can program in VHDL. That's what we want. Like, if you're like, I don't ever want to do that, don't put it on there. So hopefully that helps. But I think if you don't have a lot of experience, then up to 2 pages, you're probably good. Cool. I think that's all the questions that I can see. Which brings me to the next topic of conversation, because we had someone saying they're watching Dome Train courses. So if you're interested, I do have courses available on Dome Train. I am a terrible salesperson, so I'm doing my best here to showcase what I got. But if you want to learn about C#, I have C# courses. This is super cool. I want to brag a little bit because I was very excited. Nick Chapsis, who runs Dome Train, was giving away these 2 courses, getting started in the deep dive one. There were 30,000 plus people that got these 2 courses for free. I think that's so cool, which is why I thought it was interesting that someone found my YouTube channel from the courses. I unfortunately didn't get 30,000 YouTube subscribers from giving that away. Would have been really cool. Which reminds me, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, feel free to share the channel. Helps me. No one pays for this stuff. So, I mean, someone does, it's me. So every little bit helps to get views. But yeah, there's C# courses. There's also courses that I've partnered up with Ryan Murphy on for career-based courses. So if you're interested, there's career management, there's getting promoted, there's behavioral interview stuff, soft skills. We have another one coming shortly. And I got to get back into making more C# courses. Just had absolutely no time because I've been burnt out. There's another question in the chat from Hernan. Does establishing that I'm a self-taught developer hurt my chances of getting the job right off the bat against candidates with a more academic background? I don't think it does necessarily. The way that I would frame this is like what makes you stand out more from like what's more advantageous. So just to give you an example. So, and I'll call it my bias. I went to university for computer engineering, so I'm not saying I'm better. I'm just giving you my bias. So the way that I would look at this, hello, Hammer88, is that for someone who is self-taught versus someone who went to a boot camp versus someone that went to college or university, what I would suspect, and this is how I look at it, is that very likely all of those people, whether or not they were self-taught completely on their own, or they went to a boot camp or went to college or went to university, probably all of those people at some point spent time learning on their own, is what I would speculate. I find it pretty rare, and I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't have stats on this, but from what I gather from talking with the people that I talk to, any one of those categories of people would have some amount of programming and learning that they're doing on their own. So if you're trying to use being self-taught as an advantage over those other ones, I would say, I'm not saying it's not, I'm just saying you need to find a way to articulate that. Why is it an advantage over the competitors? Because I would say on the surface, if you say I'm self-taught and you're hoping to imply that is an advantage, I would say, yeah, but the person who went to college, they probably did some self-learning too. And then on top of that, they went for more formal education to get different perspective. So could you argue then that the person that went to college has had more learning opportunities? I'm not saying better, I'm just saying more. It's an example, but it's a framing thing, right? So just a framing thing. I'm not saying it's worse, but the whole goal of your resume or your job application is to, number one, call out all of the things that make you awesome. And how you do that is, number one, not lying. Don't do that. But you have to think about the other people applying, right? You have to be able to stand out. John Simpson says, self-taught, took a bunch of college and university classes in coding, and then went USAF with electronics, and then OTJ ever after. Not an advantage. Paper sealing is a pain. So yeah, it's just like, it's just more to be able to call out. I personally, and I it's hard to talk about this stuff because I'm trying to give like sometimes generalized perspective. Sometimes it's my own opinion. If you watch Code Commute, I try to catch myself and forcefully make myself talk about different perspectives. I have never, in my almost 13 years of being a software engineering manager and hiring people, I have never looked at what school someone went to. I have never looked at someone's GPA. I have, I wanted to say never looked at someone's courses. The only time I've ever looked at someone's courses is interns. And the only reason is not to say, oh, we can hire them or not. Literally just to have some idea is of if they've had programming courses so far. Because if they haven't, I need to make sure that I'm prepared, that maybe there might be some more hand-holding with them. That might not even be the case. Maybe for some interns, it doesn't matter if they had programming classes. But if I can see programming classes for an intern, then I might go, okay, maybe there's more reason to believe here that they have some understanding of what's going on. But if I'm getting interns anyway, usually my approach for interns is going to be like learning. Someone that is going to be receptive to learning, eager to learn, excited to do it. And at the end of the day, like it's a scan through courses. I'm not really using that to dictate a decision. It's like more of an interest. So I have never cared about the formal education. This is someone, I'm speaking as someone who went to university. I went for computer engineering. I did that because in Canada, to be a professional engineer, you need to go to an accredited program. You cannot go to college in Canada. College and university are different in Canada. You can't get a college diploma and become a professional engineer. You have to go to an accredited university program. So that was the bar for me. I never ended up becoming a professional engineer, but went through the school. John Simpson says, my take, persons taking classes often only do minimum required, and that's not nearly enough in engineering. You have to have drive and go beyond and learn how to learn. Yeah, and I mean, So not disagreeing with that, but I would say like university taught me how to learn because I did not know how to learn until I was going to university. But I agree, people have to learn how to learn. So at the end of the day, like I said, it's not even something that I look for, but different perspectives. Lessons are great, but it's for your terrible salesperson. Yeah. Channel has lots of gems, but I don't understand why your sub count's not like others like Milan, Nick. Well, Entropy, it's you gotta share the YouTube channel. No, but I think on the YouTube stuff, I struggle with. I don't make my own thumbnails anymore. And when I was making my own thumbnails, I sort of refuse. There's a couple, but I refuse to do like the clickbait kind of thing. But this is the challenge. Like if you're trying to be on social media, especially on YouTube, you need to have titles that are almost clickbait, if not clickbait, and you need to have thumbnails that make people want to click them. That's why you see people going, and it's like, the topic is like how to unit test in C#, and it's someone, oh, like no one's making that face at unit testing in C#. No one's that excited. But you kind of have to do it and people click. And so I can remember when Nick Chapsis was asking me about making courses on Dome Train, we were talking about YouTube. One of the things I said to him was like, I made a comment about like, oh man, but like the titles and the thumbnails. One of it came up in our conversation. He was like, look, he's like, if you want to be successful at like growing your channel, he's like, at some point you just have to get over that stuff. Like data literally suggests that's what people click. And then people get upset. They're like, why did people make all these stupid thumbnails? And it's like, stop clicking them and people will stop making them. John says, university was not for me. Invisible disabilities got in the way at the same time. At that time, I was unaware and did not know how to get accommodation. So Air Force became my first real stepping stone. Yeah. I didn't enjoy university, to be honest. I had internships. I had 6 internships. And, oh, sorry. I read the comments as they come in. And you got to send them the other order. So, yeah, I think that for me, it was like internships. I had 6 internships. And when I was going through school, I was like, I hate school. But then I would do an internship and I'm like, I love school. And then I was like, no, I don't love school. I love internships. Clark says, I just want to ask, do you think as someone who has professional experience, would I be able to still apply for an internship since my current work, I feel like I was not growing enough? That's a tricky question to answer. Because like, well, what do you mean by internship? As someone who has professional experience, would I be able to still apply for an internship? Yeah, and sorry, John, the streaming platform is in general, like it's kind of trash for the chat and all that. So sorry, that one's a little bit outside of my control. But for Clark's question, for my perspective, and the definition might change for different people, but my expectation when I hear the word internship, it's more like student. And I realize that's not always the case. Like you technically don't have to be a college or university or boot camp student, but I would say it's like more so geared towards students. And the idea is that it's a temporary entry level position. So regardless of the school part, the student part, temporary entry level position. So if you had professional experience, I don't think there's anything wrong or there would be something against you applying for an internship. But what I would say is like sourcing the opportunities. If you're comfortable sourcing the opportunities, I would say do it. Some places, though, might have restrictions that it's for students. They might. I don't know. So you'd have to look into that. So if the question is, do I think that it would hinder you? No, unless there's a restriction that you're currently enrolled at in a academic program. Some places are like that. And I don't know if that's because they have subsidized. I think some places, like depending on countries and provinces or states, they might have like subsidized pay for interns. So there's like incentive for the company to be able to do that kind of thing. So if you're not actually a student, then Don't know. Just kind of going back through the chat. Sorry. I plan to switch. This is from. Sorry if I can't get your name right. It's from Rado. I plan to switch my career to software engineer. If you start again, what would you recommend to learn for someone like me? This is the most interesting question because it's the question that no one can give a good answer to. And the reason is it's too general. I'll come back to it in just one sec. From Jason, I got a jet, but just want to say thanks. Hey, no, thanks. I appreciate you being here. Tay, man, I'm gonna boot you out of here with that. But Jason, thank you so much. Hope to see you again soon, and I appreciate you being here. So, Rado, the reason this question's hard to answer is because I don't know what you're trying to do. When we say software engineer, it's so general that it's impossible to give you a good answer, right? So when people ask this, I always push back and say, well, what do you want to do as a software engineer? Right? And if you don't know the answer yet, like the way to get a good answer to your question, where do I start, is to understand what you want to be doing. So do you want to be building mobile applications? Do you want to build websites? Do you want to build games? Do you want to do embedded development? You want to work on robots? Is there a particular industry you want to work in that might be more geared towards certain types of development? Do you want to be running mathematical models and simulations and having to do programs for that? Plan to focus on backend. Okay, so you want to be building, I'm assuming, and here, like again, backend is generic. John, the question is, I plan to switch my career to software engineer. If you start again, what would you recommend to learn for someone like me? So plan to focus on backend. Is this, I'm assuming backends for websites, but doesn't mean that. Could be backend for a mobile application, right? The backend service for it. There's going to be a lot of different answers here, right? I'm someone who is a .NET and C# developer. So if you ask me and you said, what would you pick? I'd pick C#. Why? Because I started that way and it's been doing me well for however long I've been in my professional career. Hasn't ever done me any harm. I think right now, in terms of popularity and stuff, Golang is getting especially popular right now. Rust, although I don't think I could recommend Rust to anyone. But the reality is, if you're talking about languages, like, pick a language. It's not, you're going to learn one, you're going to learn more. It's transferable. CDawg, yep, there you go. Yeah, I think the reality is, like, you can start with any language, right? There's people that use JavaScript to build servers in Node.js, right? What's going to happen is you're initially going to have a bias for whatever you're building in initially, right? So if you're like, hey, like, I wanted to learn JavaScript in the back end and Node.js because I've been building stuff in the front end, and then now I know JavaScript, I just want to start transferring that to the back end, like, sure. But then you're going to be like, okay, well, I feel like I can only work in JavaScript and Node, but it's like, that's not true, because if you try a different language, you're going to have a learning curve for the syntax. But the reality is that there's going to be concepts that you can apply to different languages and different tech stacks. So, I don't know about Rust there, but yeah, I don't know. A lot of people like Rust. I just have a hard time recommending it based on the usability of it, but some people just love it. John says, can I suggest grab a free cloud account, set up Ubuntu Linux VM, start learning Bash, add on top of that 20 to 25 others. Yeah, you can make your own website, add your own portfolio, learn full stack, gives you full stack experience. Yeah. Gaston says, I got Python for backend and robotics. Yes, sir. JavaScript was my first, and now I am not a fan. Yeah, I don't really like JavaScript personally. I need to use a typed language. Feels like a big step backwards to me to not use a typed language. One of the guys that I work with and have worked with for a very long time loves JavaScript. And he would probably not classify himself as a developer anymore, but I know that if I just told him, hey, go build something in JavaScript, I know he could go do it. Like, he's very, very capable. It's just not something, it doesn't, can I say vibe? Is that what people say? I don't know. It doesn't align with like how I like to write code. So, John says Python is wanted, doesn't pay much, but can do almost anything if you have a full coffee machine. Clark, I'm currently working at a university here in the Philippines as a web administrator. All the things I do is just maintain the website of the institution that I'm working with. Yeah. But yeah, Clark, I think there's lots of options. I don't think, what I would say is you're not going to pick wrong. Pick something. Someone was asking earlier about analysis paralysis. Don't spend all of your time trying to figure out the right language. Start. Right? You will be able to change. You will be able to adapt. Try something. Work with it for a bit. Right? I wouldn't say switch to a new language every week. Try something. Do it for a month. Switch to something else if you want. Oh, sorry. That was Rado that was asking. Sorry. I apologize. I knew vibe coding was going to come up. Okay, let me wrap up on the vibe coding. Let me wrap up on it. Someone let me go to the chat on this. If you're in the chat and you're willing to, give me your definition of vibe coding. Give me your definition of vibe coding, because I think I understand, but I don't want to go answering this and then someone's like, this guy doesn't even know what vibe coding is. He said I can't swear. You know that, make a tool, make it work, and then figure it out after. Yeah, absolutely. Let's wrap it up with the vibe coding stuff. So while you folks are answering what vibe coding is in the chat, please and thank you. Don't vibe me, bro. Yeah, what is that? Oh, John, just wait till these things roll in here. I'm gonna flip over to my other channels for folks to check out what's going on. So depending where you're coming from, if you want, this is my main YouTube channel. You'll notice that the thumbnails have gotten significantly better recently because I pay someone to make the thumbnails now. This is my favorite right now with the old man face. I think next to that is the dapper one. That is a very dapper mustache, if I do say so myself. But if we were to go back even earlier, you'll see where like my thumbnails are, right? Like my thumbnails are not good. They're very bad. But these ones are something. But this YouTube channel has my resume review series, a lot of C# and .NET tutorials. That's kind of the bread and butter of the channel. My live streams are done off here, of course. That's where you're watching it from if you're on YouTube. And then otherwise, I do sometimes have, like I mentioned, this AI one. I will do like general software engineering topics, kind of like the discussions from today, but edited down, more coherent, less rambling. But that's that channel. And then I have my second YouTube channel, which is my channel that I find is very, very fun for me. This one's called Code Commute. On Code Commute, most of the time, it's me driving to and from work. And sometimes it's filmed right in here, but they're all vlog style. I usually will either answer questions that are put in the comments or sent in. So by the way, if you have questions that you want me to answer and you didn't want to ask them in the chat, send me a message on social media. I will make a Code Commute video on it. I'll keep you totally anonymous. And then, then I can answer your questions and then I can make content, and it's a win-win for both of us. And otherwise, the last thing is BrandGhost. So BrandGhost is the social media content posting platform that I am building. If you are here because you've seen stuff I post on social media, everything I post on social media comes from BrandGhost. So I write my own content and then I put it into BrandGhost and it will distribute it for me. I never have to schedule anything, which is awesome because I don't got time for that. Because I have to build BrandGhost, right? So the idea is that it is absolutely free to use for cross-posting and scheduling. So if you're getting into content creation, you want to try it out, you're like, I don't want to pay for Buffer, I don't want to pay for other tools, this is free. It costs money when you want to start doing fancier stuff. So the way that I use it costs money. I am replacing some other tools that were costing me, no joke, $1,200 a year. So I said, I'm going to build this myself, make it better, and pay way less and make it a product. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing. So that's Brand Ghost. If you want to check that out, here is the link. And that's enough salesing for me. Let's go back to vibe coding. Gotta scroll back up the chat. Okay. Vibe coding equal. Okay, here we go. I think it's just coding solely with AI, Python, my bread and butter. Okay. It's when you use AI and don't fully know what you wrote. Depends on the angle for vibe coding. Oh man, okay. And you're very welcome, Clark. Thanks for being here. Infected FPS says vibe coding equals AI slot that people don't bother to put any thought into how the code should be crafted. Alan Broke It is kind of talking about the previous thing. When it comes to language, it's better to take a project first perspective, pick something you're interested in, pick the tools to implement it. Yes. Gaston says it's a very early term still. This is for vibe coding. If you let the code include stuff you aren't aware of, you have security hole. I think the context and angle for the vibe stuff, but I think it's context and angle for the vibe stuff, but I see what they mean. Not with that attitude. I suppose I've never used Streamlit before. Depends on the app and purpose. Everything is possible, even if it would be a really dumb thing to do. Vibe coding, vibe commuting. That's right. I vibe commute. I'm not into the Play Store Baby Mama games with the whole app pre-phases and all that. I see pull requests at work that what I assume is vibe coding. It is cyclomatic complexity of 32. Wrote a bunch for you. Cool beans. Awesome. Okay, thanks everyone. Amazing. Okay, but I think one of them, not picking favorites here, but I think one of the most succinct ones that matches up with what I've heard is close to what Infected FPS said. He said, AI slop that people don't bother to put any thought into how the code should be crafted. And I would, to summarize that maybe in a slightly different way, is basically asking the LLM to code something for you, and you basically cover your eyes, copy, paste, get it to compile and carry on. Like, you're not questioning what the AI is doing. It's my take, right? So instead of you sitting in your IDE saying, how am I going to design this next part, write this, it's just, hey, LLM, I need an application that can do whatever. And you take the first part of that and you're like, okay, it doesn't quite do whatever. Hey, AI, here's some code I have. I need you to go add this new piece onto it. And now you have something that starts to work. And now you're like, hey, favorite LLM, I need this feature built on this thing. Right? And you just basically, instead of actually sitting there to go, yeah, John, you're probably right. That's probably close to what you said. There's a lot of messages in there. I said I wasn't picking favorites. Maybe I was doing that with a little bit of bias. So the idea being that you're not really thinking about what you're writing. Yeah, Alan Broke It. Vibe coding sounds a lot like AI take the wheel with rather predictable consequences. Yeah. So what are my thoughts on this? Okay. One of the things that we said earlier, and I want to go back to this because I think it's very important, and I think where people can, I want to say, mess this up. Okay. Is that what are you using the tool for? And how are you using it? Right. So if someone was vibe coding and they're a junior developer and they're using that as their learning, I would say probably not an effective way to learn. Not saying you can't learn from it. Not everything's going to work. You're going to be having to prompt this thing and get it to fix the stuff, and you're probably going to learn something. I don't know if it's an effective way to learn. Could you vibe code? I don't even like saying this. It feels bad to say it. Could you vibe code and have AI put something together for you and do it quickly? Probably. Right? If your goal was, here's something brand new, I don't even know how to build this, could I just prompt AI to build it for me in minimal time? The answer is probably. I'm choosing my words carefully here, though, right? I'm not saying this is what you should do. I'm not saying it's going to build it well. But could it spit out something for you that will, air quotes, work. At least work enough. Maybe. Perhaps even probably. Could it do that? Yes. So, for your information, I see comments in your video scrolling, and the LinkedIn, I only see what I wrote. Oh, yeah. Interesting. I don't know the answer there. LinkedIn sucks, or Restream sucks. Something sucks. I would recommend it to LLM code until you hope it works. I just don't think that I can suggest that. Now, Infected FPS made another point, and this is probably the only place that I would recommend this. I haven't read the full comment, so maybe there's some nuance here. It works great if you want to get an MVP. This is from Infected FPS. Once you need to put some nuance and refinement on it, then you need to put in work and thinking about which design pattern you need, where, and such. So at some point, you probably have to give it a little bit more thought. I can't tell if my stream is screwed because the stream coming back into me from Restream is totally frozen. But I think the chat's still working. How soon before LLMs emerge to check LLM created code with standards? Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, right? It's at what point do we start getting tools that check the code that's being made? It can do it well. Probably. Twitch hiccuped a bit on my end. Can't win, man. It's a bad stream. Not you guys. You guys are awesome. The tech is bad. Okay, I seem to freeze. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to get on a call with Comcast. Last time I called Comcast, they said, we can't see any issue. But, like, if you want us to fix it, you just have to upgrade your internet. And I was like, well, what do you mean? How is that going to fix it? I know how that fixes it. Yeah, Comcast. Oh, just, yeah. But today is not a good day for the stream, so I apologize. But I wanted to say thanks for folks for hanging in there. But yeah, I think overall, I think that if you want my take on vibe coding, it would be I highly don't recommend doing it without a very like nuanced or situational approach. So for me, I've been writing code for like, we were talking about this earlier, for like 22 years now, professionally for something like 15. I know how to write software. I've been building it for a long time. I've been at a very successful startup. I currently work at Microsoft. I've done a couple things in my day. I'm not the best in the world, but I can get by. If I need to go vibe code